This is from January 10th, 2018. So it's a bit old, but I think that it's a topic of discussion that might be interesting to cover. Real quick, I just go over this other one real quick. Astro Boy manga page auctions for 5 times expected amount. The Astro Boy manga page by the late creator Automata sold for a record 269,400 euros, about 320,000 US dollars. At an auction in Paris on Saturday, the page is expected to sell for only 40,000 to 60,000 euros. Okay. Looking to add to your anime cell collection, you might want to act fast. The Japanese Diet's multi-party manga, anime, and game caucus plans to present a bill seeking funds and authorization to establish a facility to be called the Media Arts National Center, which will store and catalog anime and manga genga, a term that literally translates as original pictures, and which generally refers to animation cells and original manga work. It is necessary that we preserve anime and manga materials as treasures of Japan, declared caucus head Keiji Furuya, and the plan's initiators have specified that stopping the flow of such materials to overseas owners is a desired outcome. So this is sort of getting into what we were just reading about with Astro Boy, right? The Media Arts National Center is a successor to a similar plan to create a national comprehensive media arts center for which some 11.7 billion yen, US $104.5 million, was pledged before the project was scrapped in 2009 following Democratic Party of Japan politician Yukio Harayama's replacement of Liberal Democratic Party member Taro Aso as prime minister. Current Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is the first Liberal Democratic Party member to hold office since Aso. So basically what they're saying here is that there was a plan under Taro Aso, who is part of the Liberal Democratic Party, which, by the way, despite the name, is actually the Conservative Nationalist Party of Japan. So this is closer to like what would be, let's say, the Republican Party of the States. And then this would be the actual Democratic Party. So again, it's the Democratic Party and the Liberal Democratic Party. So basically this guy of that party had a plan. That plan got scrapped when this other guy came into power. And now that this party is back in power with Abe, the plan is being revised as this new thing, right? And opponents of the 2009 plan dismissed it as an attempt to, quote, make a federally funded manga cafe, and pointed to pre-existing institutions such as the Kyoto International Manga Museum, which are already involved in the preservation of anime and manga materials. However, the caucus pushing for the establishment of a Media Arts National Center says that by association with the federal government, the newly proposed facility would be considered an offshoot of the National Diet Library, Japan's counterpart to the U.S. Library of Congress. This would allow the Media Arts National Center to sidestep legal restrictions on the digital recording and storage of copyrighted anime and manga materials, which the caucus cites as a hindrance to their proper preservation by currently existing organizations. In addition to storage and preservation, the caucus says that the Media Arts National Center would allow visitors to peruse its collection free of charge and hold exhibitions of significant pieces. The center would also supply visitors with information on new anime and manga franchises, as well as details about upcoming domestic anime and manga related events. Proponents also say that the Media Arts National Center would serve as a mecca for overseas tourists with an interest in anime and manga, serving as a must-see on their Japanese travel itineraries. That, however, alludes to a potential point of controversy. Anime and manga are not just art, but a form of consumer art. At their most fundamental level, they exist because someone is willing to pay money for them, and with overseas sales becoming an increasingly significant revenue stream for the industry, it seems somewhat heavy-handed for the government to be mulling a plan that aims to address foreign purchases of materials while remaining mum on the subject of domestic buyers who are just as capable of hoarding private collections as their overseas equivalents.
So essentially what this means is people outside of Japan can't import cels and crap like that, right?
That sounds like that's what they're wanting to do. However, at this point, since it's focused on cels, you're not really focused on the animation itself, but more of kind of completing a fine art picture book.
Right. It's focused on cels and, let's say, the original drawing from the manga, like sketches of like Gundam, like the original design. They're trying to preserve that stuff. And this isn't even something going forward that should be an issue, because the only anime I know of that's actually using cels in recent years is Violet Evergarden, right? So, and the thing is that back in the day, the reason that cels are kind of rare and stuff is because celluloid was expensive, and they used to shoot the cell on camera to have it archived, right? So for the production, and then they'd scrape the paint off and reuse it, you know? So I get it, but that line here where they're saying that this would allow the Media Arts National Center to sidestep legal restrictions on the digital recording and storage of copyrighted anime and manga materials, which the caucus cites as hindrances to their proper preservation by currently existing organizations. So this is basically allowing them to seize assets. It sounds like this is an overreach on their part to try to seize assets. And what I'm going to say about this is it's great if you want to create a museum and you want to preserve Japanese history. Like, for instance, I would be taken back if, and this is going to sound like a very hyperbolic statement to make, but I would be taken back if, for instance, the U.S. government decided that it was okay for them to sell the Liberty Bell to some collector in France, you know? And that seems crazy, but you have to consider the fact that in Japan, their modern identity, where Japan ceased being the empire of Japan after the atom bomb was dropped on them, basically, and it became modern Japan, it's a very short history, but an enormous part of their cultural history is surrounded in games, anime, and manga. It's a huge, enormous part of who they are. So I do understand the value of wanting to preserve this stuff because it's incredibly culturally important to who the Japanese people are. So I get the desire from these bureaucrats who want to do this. But first of all, they had mentioned that they want to make this like basically this museum thing available to the public for free, that people will be able to freely browse in it. Now, you got to understand that not charging admission doesn't mean that they won't make money. They can have gift shops, they can have all sorts of things that they can receive income from, but this is a government-run organization. You're going to need to pay through tax dollars to maintain all this stuff. By the way, the guy who spent $320,000 US for that page from Astro Boy, he's going to take better care of it than the Japanese government would.
Yeah.
Okay, number one. It's not going to be in Japan, but he's going to take better care of it than they would. It's also better that it's not all located in a centralized location. And
where earthquakes and fault lines are. Exactly.
So it's like, it's better, in my opinion, for this stuff to be dispersed. It's like, if you can, honestly, if a entrepreneur wanted to put forth the money, you know, like somebody like the Japanese version, let's say, of Elon Musk, wanted to put forth a huge fund of money because he had it and compile historical stuff and create his own for-profit museum for the sake of doing basically what they're suggesting doing, but actually paying for this stuff and getting stuff donated, but being willing to actually, you know, put forth the money and energy and effort to do this in order to do it in a way where it'll actually make money, bring up the Japanese economy, and not just be some government job where the taxes are paying for the employees and all the other stuff in it, right? If they wanted to do that and everything was voluntary, meaning that the studios or the people who own the rights to all these things are voluntarily giving up access to the sketches, the cels, you know, whatever it's going to be that's going to go in there, then I'm all for it, you know, because what they want to do this for is the sort of the tourism aspect. They want to incentivize people to come into Japan, spend money in Japan. More money is going to get spent in Akihabara and all that stuff, which is great for the businesses around there and the Japanese people and everything to have that extra income coming into their country. But I just don't think that seizing these assets is at all a good idea. And it's kind of bizarre that they are like, I mean, they've expressly stated that their purpose is stopping the flow of materials to overseas owners, you know.
To add to what you were saying about how they'll take better care, that guy who spent $1 billion or whatever. Yeah, I agree with that. Like, these people aren't buying it just so they can tear them up and destroy their culture. In fact, I think it's a better thing because they're spreading the culture. Like, what's wrong with that? And it's preserving it in different areas, so it's like, you know, oh, I can get a bit of Japan in USA or something like that. And I have a question. So when you say the right to seize whatever from the internet, do you mean so if they see that I have the wrong 1/2 cell on the internet, they
No,
can
no, no.
legally send people in my house and pick it up? Or
No,
what do
no,
you
no,
mean?
no, no, no. I'm going to read this again. This would allow the Media Arts National Center to sidestep legal restrictions on the digital recording and storage of copyrighted anime and manga materials. So this is, I think, going forward on things that are like, let's say, currently being produced that need to be, like, let's say, archived for one reason or another. It's like so Library of Congress, for example, stores, they admit movies and stuff to the Library of Congress in America. So like let's say Taxi Driver or Scarface or Godfather, or just stuff that is an important iconic masterpiece of the time gets admitted into the Library of Congress. This is their way of sort of taking that for the sake of preservation without there being like, oh, you can't just take that. This is our property kind of thing on behalf of the studios. That's what it sounds like to me. Like this isn't them being able to necessarily like this obviously isn't going to extend outside of Japan.
Locally, this one person who was a big influence in the area, what he did was he liked this one artist. So he went around, did some research, and got every single painting of this artist. Mm-hmm. What he did at that point is with his house, he made a separate area and displayed all this art and would invite people over to watch it. Mm-hmm. For the longest time, they thought that he was running something for the city. But when he passed away, it was soon revealed that the city didn't run it. This guy owned all of these artworks.
Yeah.
So you do have stuff like that happens.
Yeah, something that's worth. Okay, so again, it is necessary to differentiate the consumer good. Obviously, this isn't going to affect us in the sense of, I mean, maybe it'll affect FDD&M because he actually bought a cell, but I haven't bought a cell. I don't need to buy a cell, but it's not going to affect us in terms of actually buying the consumer product. Right. So this isn't a perfect example, but just to give a quick example, we have manga in the United States today due to people like Glenn Danzig from the Misfits going to Japan, touring in Japan with his band, seeing manga there, buying things like Fist of the North Star and bringing it back here and then creating a demand for it. By showing it to people and, all the Hollywood movies that have been made by people who went to Japan to promote a movie they're making and they got introduced to Japanese culture and products and stuff. And the same thing, you know what I mean? So this is obviously we're at a point now where that's already been done. Anime is already like worldwide and everything. It's not the same thing. But I think that I can just sum up my entire thoughts on this and that this is fine for them to do, but everything needs to be voluntary. I guess that's just the bottom line to boil it down.
I'm not sure of the Japanese legal system, what they need to do, but if it was in America, they would have to lobby for a long time to get something to move on that.
Yeah, but that's different. America has
I know
different rights. Japan is not a republic like America is. It's a democracy. It's actually a constitutional monarchy, So they have a whole different system and their freedoms are not at all what we have.
Right. Because I know with a lot of syndicated television shows, after they get done with an episode, they send it to if I understand this process, they send it to the broadcast network. Broadcast network will get a copy of it to play, and they put the master in some sort of white area to store.
Yeah.
Sure
I'm all for preservation of media. I'm all for it. Right. I'm just saying that the seizure of assets is ridiculous. Like this, right. We don't cross that line.